All right. Welcome to Finding the Voices. Right now, we are in our series of People of the World, wherein we invite people of the world, as the name suggests, and then we'll be learning, from them, particularly focusing in terms of personal growth. So right now, we have June V. Grant joining us from Singapore, and I met June in one of our seminar which I have gone, and I hadn't had the opportunity to talk to her lots, but I had this amazing connection, good energy, and I was like always in my mind that I should invite her to my show, and we should learn from her. So a little bit about June. June is a transformational coach and branding expert who helps other coaches, entrepreneur, executive to break the ceiling, transform, transcend, taking our personal and professional brand to a whole other level. And that's where we are all here for. So with that, I want to welcome June to our show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Monica. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually wanted to show a little bit about my native place, but let me figure out how I can share the screen now.
Mhm.
Okay, so a little bit of introduction about me, June, because I know we haven't really spoken. Professionally, I am in the IT world. I
Mhm.
am a computer science engineer. I work in the healthcare, awesome technology. That's what I do for my living. And over the weekend, I do Finding the Voices, which is a platform for me to connect to people, particularly to people, from my native place in Manipur. And also, the main focus of that is to inspire, empower, and all of us to grow personally. So that's what I do in my weekend. And it's a weekend today, and that's what we are doing.
I love that.
Yeah, so I wanted to share a little bit about our place because I don't know if you have ever come across Manipur.
You know what? I haven't, and I'm really curious and I'm really excited.
Yeah. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Mhm.
And right now, you must be seeing my Instagram screen. I wanted to welcome you,
Thank
with your
you.
picture. And I definitely am looking forward to learn more about your cards. So I did a quick search on Google on Manipur, Zuko Valley, just so that I want you to know that, we come from a valley surrounded by mountains. And, this is just a little bit of glimpse of how beautiful Manipur looks like. And many
It's
people, when I say
gorgeous.
it's gorgeous, right? Yeah, so
Yes.
definitely look it
Wow.
up. And this is another search I did on Loktak Lake.
Uh-huh.
That is one of our freshwater lake in Manipur. Really, again, beautiful. You can see the floating homes, and it's really pretty. And here you can see, in Loktak, one of the native girl in the traditional Manipuri clothes.
Uh-huh.
So definitely very different from what people think about India, and just wanted to share with you, how and from where I come from.
Wow, thank you. This is amazing. I've not seen anything like this. Like
Yeah,
that lake is amazing. I mean the circles.
yeah. Those are the floating. We call it pum.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, there are like there's a small island over there called Thanga, and I just interviewed one teacher from there, and it's like amazing. It's so beautiful. I personally, when I grew up in Manipur,
Mm-hmm.
we do have conflict over there. It's getting better now, but when I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
it was more like home and school. And so I never really got an opportunity to see all this beautiful thing and experience it. So my hope is someday I'll go there and do a reality show wherein I
Mm-hmm.
explore, all the beautiful places. So let me
That
show
sounds
you one
amazing.
more. Yeah, so this search, I just did a search on Manipur because I wanted you to see the people with different, you see over here, this
Yes.
one of the tribe, Tangkhul, and you can see like very different ethnic dresses we have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is one of the market. And if you look in India map, this is the map of India, and this is
Uh-huh.
Manipur in the northeast.
Oh, I
I
see. Okay.
Yeah, as I'm talking to like people of the world, and I'm making I guess my community with the world, and we talk
Mm-hmm.
about right where do we do our workshop, and people travel a lot to India, and I always wanted to encourage that, hey, do you know that there's this beautiful place Manipur, and maybe we can do our workshop over there.
It sounds amazing. I can't see why not. It looks
Yeah.
so magical. It looks so pure. It looks so diverse. Like it looks like it's a place of the world that's in this world, but yet out of this world.
Yeah, so I wanted to share and start the call with a little bit, sharing about our place, and that is a little bit about myself, about the place where I come from, and also, many of our audience whom we are, having the show for. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we want to know a little bit about yourself. And generally, I like to learn about your background. Not, I do. I'm interested in what you're doing now, but also, how you grew up and how that impacted you to become a coach. Because I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
like, carry a big story, on why you are so much focused on personal
Yes.
growth.
100%. I mean, how much time do we have? Do we have like a few days? um, but yeah, I'll condense it so that you can go live your lives and go to bed. Wherever you are. And it's early in the morning for me. So for me, I'm like I've got a whole day to tell you. But let me summarize. Firstly, thank you again for the opportunity to see where you grew up because it's amazing, where you grew up and where you live now. It's so different. Although having said
Yeah,
that, we all live under the same sky anyway. So even though the ground we step on may seem or look different, we're actually all in the same place. It's just a very, very big place. Um, I'm now based in Singapore, and this is where I was born and raised, and I spent about 10 years in the U.S. as well, um, in New York as well as LA. And LA is my spiritual home. I cannot explain it, but once I got there, it just felt right. But then why I'm back in Singapore is it feels like a calling to be back home during this time. And we only moved back recently, we meaning my husband and I. And then a few months after we moved back, COVID-19 happened. So it further um, tells me that nothing is a coincidence and I'm meant to be here
mm,
at this time. Which brings me to my background. Um, it's really I guess if I were to sum it up in one word, it would be interesting. Many people have told me that it could be made into a movie or a book or both. Uh, I have a feeling that it will happen one day. I just don't have time to write it yet because it's still unfolding. Um, I'm born to um, how do I say? Well, basically, I've been through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows so far.
mhm.
I'm sure it will continue because such is the cycle of life. But I feel like I've seen a lot. I've experienced a lot, and it feels like it's more than just this lifetime, if that makes sense. Um, and sometimes I grapple with it because, like everyone, I have my conscious mind with all my programming that goes, you have to be logical, it has to be backed by data. And you, being an IT professional, would understand that, right? And on the other side, there's my other side that believes in magic. So, I'm someone who embraces both logic and magic. And that's because it's unfolded throughout my life. So I grew up in a family that's loving, but at the same time abusive.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know that it was abusive. It was my normal. You know what? When you grow up where you grow up, what basis of comparison would you have? That just
Right,
is your normal, right?
right.
And when you start growing up a little bit and you meet other people and when you share your stories, that's when I started going, hang on, uh, I think my childhood was not very normal.
Yeah,
And when I realized that, it just, yeah, it just made me look at, like, it left me very confused. I'm like, what do you mean by my normal isn't normal? And what is normal anyway, right? But basically, I went through life the way I was supposed to, right? Be the good girl. As an Asian woman, I needed to fulfill a certain stereotype. I Even from young, I seemed to rebel against it, but I was very quickly put in my place, and it was like, this is not how a girl should behave. You need to behave a certain way. So slowly but surely, I found that mold, and I decided that in order to get the love that I wanted, I better follow the rules. So, I did my education as my family wanted me to be. I went to university, even though I really didn't want to, but it was the right thing to do. I did all that. And while growing up, I was raised by a single parent because of the dramatic family dynamics, which contributed to the lack of normalcy, but I took on as my normalcy. Um, at 17, at 17, I tried to kill myself. Um, till this day, my parents do not know, didn't feel the need to talk about it. But after taking 30 pills and falling asleep for 18 hours and waking up to realize that nothing happened at all and everyone
nobody
in the family,
noticed.
nobody noticed. They all thought that I was throwing a 17-year-old tantrum, and so they left me to my own devices. And I did, other than feeling a little bit ill, I just, threw out the stuff that I took. But other than that, I was absolutely fine. Health wise was fine. And I think at that moment I realized, you know what? I've reached a rock bottom
Yeah,
and the only way is up. And I felt this voice inside me that said, now that you have failed to leave this world, it is your responsibility to go out and live life to the fullest, right? And so I became a different person after that. I have chills as I think about this.
yeah, me too. I'm getting chills.
And I became a different person. So one reason why I decided to take my own life was because my relationships with my family was just very, very broken, and I felt unheard and unseen, and
Mm,
it was a dictatorship. Okay,
mm.
so
So
I
is this
couldn't
more
see.
with your mother or your father?
Yes, my mom. My father was never around.
Got it.
So, my mom assumed both roles. Um, and now looking back, I understand how difficult it was for her, but she didn't know how to manage it.
Mm,
She didn't realize there was a way to manage it. So she took on the victim mentality, and she
mm.
became a dictator because it was just all in a bid for her to try and survive. But in doing so, there was a lot of abuse on me, which she never saw, and I think till this day she can't see it. I've had to do a lot of self healing work
Yeah,
to get to where I am today, to
yeah,
not hold it against her anymore. But for a very long time, I held it against her. And even then, I'm still in work in progress because sometimes when I'm not feeling grounded, centered, and strong, that part of me still comes up. That
right,
hurt child comes up and acts out towards mom. So I've become very mindful of it, and I meditate religiously. I do my grounding practices just so that I can, be centered, right?
right,
Instead of spiraling out of control. So I thank my mom for teaching me that because she didn't know the art of self care, right?
Mm.
So, and hence, because she didn't take care of herself, her frustration and resentment what came out on me instead.
Hmm.
Like,
And
not
you
that
were
she
very
did.
young.
Yeah. So, and so that was that she was very over controlling. She wanted me by her side all the time. She didn't want me to live like a regular teenager and hang out with my friends. Like, I was there. She told me that my purpose in life, and actually this is what I remember since my early childhood. One of the first words I ever heard my mom say was that I gave birth to you to save my marriage and you failed. Therefore, you're nothing more than bad luck,
Mm.
a jinx, and you're just a liability to me. So, because of that, I believe that I needed to,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
what I didn't
So is the
fix.
abuse like, look, I mean, definitely you're saying that it's more words, but was there physical abuse too?
Um, there was some, but it was mostly words.
Mostly words. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, mostly words. It was just mostly emotional than anything. The physical was, I the physical wasn't a lot. I
Yeah.
know that's relative, right? But
Yeah.
honestly, I wasn't the kid that went to school with bruises or stuff. That wasn't right. Once in a while, when we get into heated arguments, I remember there was just one time that the argument got so heated that she gave me one tight slap across the face and my nose started bleeding. But at that moment, she saw what she did. And you could see that shift in her. And she never touched me ever again in that way.
Mm.
Right. So I'm grateful that, it wasn't physical abuse, but it was a lot of verbal.
Yeah. No, and I think like myself and a lot of people can relate to what we are talking about because we all have this personal growth journey for each of us. And in many ways, we are impacted by somebody who are close with words, which causes us to believe, and we carry that belief, not enabling us to, to perform at the highest or to, let me speak your word, to break the ceiling, as you call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes,
Yeah. All right.
yes. And with that, it manifested in all kinds of relationships where that kind of mental abuse and emotional abuse was there. But I didn't know my part that I played in it. You get what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so romantic relationships. So okay, so after the suicide, I became this other person that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna live life as fully as I can.
Yeah.
And I became very active in school. I decided to go and earn my own money, and I was like, from this day onwards, at 17, I will no longer take a single cent from my family. Um, if they do give me some, I will accept only because it makes them feel good. But I'm gonna find my own way out because I refuse to be chained to someone because they're
They are
providing
paying
for
for
my
you.
livelihood, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
became very independent. I went to school, and whatever jobs that came my way, like whether I was a waitress, a telemarketer, a manicurist, like anything, I would just teach
Mm.
myself to do it. And as long as I wasn't breaking the law or doing anything immoral, and it was a job that paid me money, I would do it, right? And so I put myself through school, I put myself through university. And yeah, it felt really empowering. And I was like, right, the way to live my life the way that I want is to be independent, um, and not have to rely on anyone. Now, while that was good, that was an overcorrection, and that was another extremism. So I've lived a life of many extremes, right? Um, and it all worked well. And then, cut to like 15 years later, when I was 30, I had become really successful, in advertising, a corporate career. I had by then lived in New York for a while, and then moved back to Singapore because in 2008 the the financial crisis hit and I got laid off.
Yeah,
And
me
then
too.
that was another chapter that made me question everything.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was laid
my
off too. Look at that, 2008. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So you know that feeling, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you work so hard to get to where you are, and I was considered like young and an overperformer and achiever at that point in time, and I thought that I could never fail because I was like, you know what? I've tried killing myself, and I've lived, and I've turned myself around. Like there's nothing that's gonna get me down. I'm like, trust me, honey, life is gonna get at you. It always does. And so when that happened, I it took me a while to get back on my feet because I couldn't understand why I got laid off. I made it about me. You know what I mean? Because I
Mm,
was like,
mm. Yeah,
why would they lay me off? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
realize that, now rationally thinking about it, back then I was in New York. I needed a visa. My visa was expiring. It just didn't make financial sense to renew my visa when it made more sense to protect the jobs of Americans. So now, but I couldn't understand the lesson then, but now I do because
Yeah,
I've grown since then. But from there, I spent years licking my wounds because I was like, I'm a sham. Everything that I worked for before was never good enough. That's why I got laid off. Like just sad stories like that.
right.
Uh, so I felt like I had to start all over again, which I did. So I went back to Singapore. I came back to Singapore rather, since I'm back here. And then rebuilt my career again because I picked up where I left off in Singapore and very easily got to a level that I was happy with, right? Then things just started feeling like it wasn't going well again. And I was like, oh, come on, like, what? And that was then when I realized that I couldn't, as much as I managed to find and dig my way out of trouble previously, it came to a point where at that period when I was 30, I couldn't get myself unstuck anymore. And I was like, oh no, for an independent person, that felt like another failure. And I was like, how do I not be able to help myself? That doesn't feel right. So I was like, okay, this time I need professional help. So I went through the options. I'm like, do I need to see a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor? Like what is it, right? And someone randomly said, you should go see a life coach. And I was like, that was like in 2010. I was like, what's a
What
life
is the
coach?
life coach?
Yeah. I mean, up till today,
Yeah,
I still get asked that question, right?
yeah.
And somehow I felt that calling in me to go try this. It
Hmm.
feels interesting. And I was like, well, this is completely insane. But since I feel like at rock bottom again, what's the worst that can happen? So I'll just go give it a try. And well, I worked with my coach for a year and my life transformed. Um, it felt a bit like therapy meets mentorship meets this other thing that I could never describe. And by the time I was done with that phase in my life, I again transformed, became a different person. I realized the roles that I played in life that caused me to receive the effects that I received, right? I did some healing, mom issues and stuff. And by the end of it, the universe gifted me with this opportunity to move to LA. And I couldn't explain how that happened, but
Hmm.
I mean, I know by now that it's not my job to explain why. It is to see the opportunity, listen to what's inside, receive the help when it comes, and just go with
Right.
it. Right? So that was a miracle in itself. And so from then on, I became a huge advocate of coaching. Anyone who would come to me, any friends or anyone who would come to me and be like, hey, I'm feeling stuck in my life. I'm like, did you just say you feel stuck? Because I have the absolute, solution for you. Go find yourself a coach. Right. So I would refer people to my coach, or I'm like, I don't care what coach you see, as long as you find a coach that resonates for you, go see a life coach. And I've been saying that you know how these days people, or at least, yeah, people seem to hire fitness trainers like nobody's
Yeah.
business, like it's the norm. Whereas back in the day, it was like, oh, it's only for very rich people or celebrities, right? So I've had a feeling for since then that one day people are gonna hire life coaches, personal coaches, transformation coaches, whatever you call it. People are gonna hire coaches to support them in their lives as easily as people hire fitness coaches right now.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is part of our future, and it may be very soon. We might actually be there already. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Because it's so powerful when you have someone who, no matter what, believes in you, doesn't
Yep.
ever judge you, doesn't ever try and give you advice. If they do, it's from their perspective, from their past experiences, but by no way is it like, June, you have to do this, right? Because I hate being told what to do, because you don't know me. No one ever knows me the way that I do, right? So I feel like unless I solicit advice, I don't want advice from someone else, because it's just annoying, right? I prefer to get my answers on my own. It just feels more rewarding because I would have learned, right? It's it's the concept of, do I want someone to give me a fish or teach me how to fish, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I love to learn. So when I discovered the world of coaching, I realized the power of having a coach, because once you learn the skills and tools that coaches use on you, you can do the same for yourself. It's sustainable. You're not reliant on someone else for the rest of your life. You learn to be fully self-reliant and realize your own potential that you couldn't see, but someone else can see in you. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Right. No, no, you're right. And I think, I definitely agree with you on the personal growth, personal coach concept becoming more and more, because right now we have really accomplished people, right, who are accomplished but yet feeling really stuck and not fully happy. And I think the more we are talking about it, that hey, I actually went through the transformation, which is what exactly we are doing right now, right? That
Yeah.
I am what I am because of all the help I got, and because of all the tools and techniques I used. And that's how I think we are building our community. So yeah, I am absolutely with you on that.
Yeah, so that's that. And then all of this time, I kept hearing this voice that says, you can be a coach too. But I ignored it because I was like, what do I know? Like, I all I am is, an advertising executive when it comes to helping brands like, Apple, McDonald's and stuff. Like, I can do that because, I just find out where their brands are right now and where they want to be, and I just help them get there. And then that voice was like, well, aren't you transforming corporate brands? And I was like, yes. And then that voice was kind of like saying, well, can't you use those skills to help people transform themselves? Because people are like brands as well, right? And
Right.
so that was when I was like, I think there's something there, but I felt embarrassed because I was like, who's gonna take me seriously? Like, everyone knows me as like the advertising person, right, in the corporate world. And suddenly I'm gonna become a coach. Like, who does that anyway, right? So, but then I found myself in a corporate job in New York at that time that I didn't quite love, and I was like, you know what? Let me just go and sign up for a coaching course anyway. At least it'll distract me from a job that I didn't 100% enjoy. And if after the course I realized that, yep, this was all just nonsense and this whole coaching thing is not meant to be, at least I would have tried it and known that, yeah, it wasn't meant to be. And so the universe somehow sent to me a coach out of a coach who coaches coaches, and I just decided to sign up. I had a lot of resistance, by the way. I kept coming up with excuses like, oh, it's too expensive, I'm not sure this is gonna work, and all that kind of stuff. But somehow I was like, it's so strange that I want this so badly, yet I don't want it at the same time. And so I decided that maybe I'll just give it a try. And so I did. And as soon as I signed up for the course, I felt like I was meant to be there. Like everything that my teacher, who became my mentor, taught me, I felt like it was all there. I knew it. I wasn't learning something new. It was as if
Yeah.
he was helping me remember things that I've always already known.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so weird. And once we graduated, because it was a group course, I couldn't believe that I actually felt like the top student. And I was like, no, I'm not the top student kind because I'm a rebel, right? But my mentor immediately invited me to be his apprentice after that because I guess he saw something. And I just, again, I couldn't believe it, but I just went with it. And then, as part of my apprenticeship, what he said was, okay, now that you've graduated, the first thing you do is to go and declare that you're a coach, like declare it. I was like, okay, this guy is as crazy as it comes. Like, I took a course and suddenly I'm a coach. Like, how does that even happen? People are just gonna laugh at me, right? Um, so he was like, well, you can declare it any way you want. You can write it on a post-it note. You know, you don't have to shout it out to the world from a rooftop. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll write it on a post-it note. And so when I wrote my declaration, I am a coach, on a post-it note, this voice came to me and said, June, you either go big or go home. You don't do things like declaration on a post-it note. Like, what's that, right? Like, if you want to do something, you're always going to do it well. So how about doing it on social media, on Facebook? And I was like listening to that voice. I was like, okay, this time I've definitely lost my marbles, because like declaring it on Facebook is like opening myself up to ridicule, right? But that urge again was so strong, and I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I can always delete the post, right? And so I posted it on Facebook, and I just said, hi everyone. I just completed a course, and now I'm a life coach. And if you want to talk about it or whatever, just let me know. And after I clicked it, I can actually still feel that same feeling. Like my palms were cold, and I was like, okay, this is it. People are just gonna start laughing at me. But the opposite happened. The engagement was insane. I had so many congratulation comments, and people were like, "Oh, you've been doing this. You've been our coach the whole time." You know, friends were saying that, and like they were like, "What do you mean you're only doing it now? Haven't you been coaching all this time?" And I was like, "What am I missing here?" And then I started getting phone calls, and in particular, some phone calls were just curious about the journey. And there was one phone call. She later became my very first client. She and I went to university together, and we lost touch over the years. And she had become a mom and a whole different life. So she called me and she said, "I want to hire you. Will you work with me?" And that was when I was like, okay, this gets even crazier. I was like, "What do you mean? You know that I just graduated. Why don't I refer you to my coach instead, or someone else, just not me?" And she's like, "No, I have to work with you." And I was like, "Okay, why?" And she was like, "Well, I'm not doing too well. I just tried to kill myself 2 weeks ago." And and then she proceeds to like tell me what's going
Mm.
on in her life. And I was scared. I was like, I'm a newly graduated coach, and there's a woman with two kids, a husband, and a whole family, and she's not in an emotionally stable place, and she wants to hire me. I was like, that's a lot of responsibility. Like I can't, right? So I spoke to my coach about it, and my coach slash mentor slash teacher. He said, you decide what you want to do. So I thought long and hard about it, and I was like, you know what? As long there's a reason why this is happening for me, I'm gonna take up the challenge, right? So I was like, wow, June, we have done it again. Your first client, and you choose the most challenging client, but hey, that's what you do anyway, so fine. And so I spoke to her, and I made sure that she's got proper medical attention, right? Because I was like, I'm not a doctor,
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist. You have to have a proper team that looks after your mental health and your physical health. But what I can do is be an additional support in your support team. And she's like, yep, no problem. And she said that she's got a family counselor as well. So I was like, great, I'm one of the many people in your team to support you. So I feel okay because it's not just all of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, a few weeks into working with each other, she told me in one of our sessions that the impact that I was making in her life was more than the sum of the other people that she worked with. And I was like, I'm not sure I understand what you mean, but I will accept that. And then she's like, well, she's like, I will retain my doctors, but I'm gonna not work with my family counselor anymore, because she was like, June, whatever you're doing, this work that we're doing together is doing so much more than a counselor is doing. And I was like, okay, I mean, you know yourself best, kind of thing. But basically, after 9 months of working together, she transformed. She, from the woman that I met who couldn't see the meaning in life anymore, she became a different version of herself. The thought of leaving this world was the furthest from her mind by the time we were done. She became really passionate about her life, about her kids. That fire in her came back again. She quit her job that she hated for so long but didn't dare to quit. And she started her own business. It wasn't easy, as any
Yeah.
business owner can tell you, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an instant success, right? But she did it. And the more she did steps like that, the more fired up and alive she felt. Um, and by the end of that, her relationship with her family transformed. And it was Chinese New Year at that time, by the end of our coaching relationship. And one of her relatives learned from her that we were working together. And so I will never forget this message that I received from her relatives to say that it was to thank me. It was like, thank you, June. As her family members, we can see the impact of the work that you're doing with her. She has become a different person, and we feel like we have her back with us again. And we know that it was because of you. So thank you very much that we have her back. And I mean, I'll never forget that, because that just told me that I'm absolutely on the right path. And, you know, that's what I'm here to do, which is to help people
Yeah.
transform. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And, I think for all of us and to our listener, I think personal growth is a journey, right? As you have said, we can transform it, and it's one step at a time, right? Like for this lady whom you have helped, it took 9 months for, I guess, for a very drastic transformation, but it's one step at a time. And, you have like different things. So I know that we in this session, we won't be able to learn everything, but, as a glimpse, like, can you share some of the tools, techniques, or what you do? I did look up into your website, and you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of amazing things you offer. You have inspirational card deck, which I want to learn a little bit about it. Also, you have workshop, women's circle, and intuition and things like that. So if you can, share a little bit about some of the services you do and focus on, I guess, something which we all in the call today can learn a little
Cool.
bit.
Okay. So I guess I'm most so yes, like you said, I've got my intuition cards, which as a gift to everyone, I'm gonna, by the end of this call, I'm just gonna shuffle through all of them and just pick one, which is the message for everyone on the call.
Cool.
Um, and I practice Reiki as well. So when I work with my coaching clients, I would give them the option as to whether they want Reiki to be working in the background during the session. And it's optional, right? Because some people are comfortable with it, some people are not. But for those who are open and need that healing, it helps in that background. Yeah, and so and the women's circles as well. I created it when I lived in New York and LA, and I brought it back with me in Singapore. But basically, wherever I travel, as long as there are women who are interested in joining me as part of a women's circle, where we and I call it lift, play, love, because we lift each other up. We play because play is fun and it's joy, right? And we love because there's nothing more universal than love, right? And during my women's circles, it's very intuitive. So the program's always different for each circle depending on the energy of the women in the group. Um, but basically what I'm really focused on is helping people get that transformation that they desire, right? So while it's called coaching, which is a very general word in that sense, right? It really is helping people along their journey. And what I do is I ask these deep questions, which I'm sure, Monica, you're familiar with. And they're very simple, deep questions, right? Just
Yeah,
things like, what are you not looking at, right? What do you want? And that is a question that trips most people up. When I ask people, like, what do you want? They go
I
like,
know. What do you want?
like, you mean right now or for lunch or, with my husband? I'm like, just simply, what do you want? Like, what's coming to you? And then they're like, so confused. And, but it's these powerful, simple questions that helps people get in touch with what's really inside that we are afraid or embarrassed or unaware to talk about, right? So my job is to ask these questions and just listen. Because when I listen, just not giving any advice or anything, the answers just pour out of the other person. And you can see my client just answering those questions and having that incredulous, like, oh my god, like that aha moment. And where, like, he, she, and I, or whoever it is I'm working with, we both get the chills at the same time because it's just
Yeah,
profound. Like, that's what I love doing, because it's just helping the other person realize that he or she has had the answer inside them all
yeah,
along.
all
it
along.
just it
Yep.
just never got pulled out.
Yeah, and
So
I
yeah.
think the beauty of personal growth is like the person has to be ready because all the work is done by the person, and it's you and other people who are in the personal growth leaders. They act as a conduit to take out what you already have by questions or reflection and things like that. Yeah, so beautifully explained.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, that's what I essentially do, which is why sometimes people come to me and be like, June, give me advice, tell me what to do. And I'm like, no, no, no. I would be doing you a disservice if I told you what to do. Because you know what? If I was doing this because I was in it for like the money, I would easily just tell you what to do so that you would need me for the rest of your life. And then, you'd be paying me for the rest of your life. But I'm doing this because I believe it is my duty to help people who are ready to become that version of themselves that's always been waiting for them, right? So I don't believe in working with me for the rest of your life kind of situation. You work
Right.
with me when it's the right time, and I give you what you need to find the answers in yourself. And after that, you go off and live your beautiful life because my job is done.
Yeah, look at this. Like coming from a little girl, like 17 years old, who took 30 pills. And, now look at you. I'm so proud of you. All right.
Thank
So looking
you.
at the time, let's do the card. And then after that, I do want to open up for questions. And, let's do that.
Okay, cool. So here are my cards. I'm gonna just focus and
Is that for
shuffle.
sale too? I want to
Yes,
buy
it
it.
is.
I saw it and I was like, I am so much into cards, affirmation. And when I saw it, I'm like, wow, that's cool. And my daughter was looking at your picture and my daughter is like, oh, mama, that's a bad word. So I said, no, 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 it's in some other context.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I use those words, because I want people to know that everything has a context, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it doesn't mean that a word is bad forever. It's just how you say it, when you say it, and in what context. So that's really important. So to answer your question, yes, the cards are available for sale. I believe if you click on my website, there should be a link. But if it doesn't lead you to where you're supposed to go, let me know. Just drop me an email, and we can, take care of that. So I just want to say that these 50 cards are 50 different designs. I never went to design school or have any formal background. But it all just came out of me over a 4 month process, and I designed each and every one on my own. And again, I don't know where that came from, but it just
Yeah.
came through me. I've had people who pick these cards, and some people just pick a card and they immediately start crying, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, what have I done? And they're like, no, this was the card that I needed. So I find these cards very magical. So whoever who feels a connection with it, I guess it's meant for you. So with that, I'm just gonna focus for this group, shuffle it, and then pick the card that wants to be seen by all of you. Okay, this is the one. I can be anything. I know it's the other way around, but that's your message.
I can be anything. Yes, we can be anything.
Yes, you can. So, whatever that comes to you, when you see this message, whether it's any thoughts, feelings, sensations, or that little whisper of going, yes, I can be a coach, or yes, I can be a public speaker, yes, I can be a talk show host, yes, I can be a mom, like whatever that is, that's that's the sign that you need it.
Cool. So is the like once you have the card, is the recommendation to kind of play around with this card every day?
It is, the recommendation is to follow your intuition and play around
Yeah.
with it often as you want. Some people who bought it simply buy it to put it in a bag and give it out to people that they meet,
Mm.
because they feel like it's a pay it forward thing. Some people put it in a bowl and leave it right outside just by their door so that before they go out every day they pick a card. Yeah, just many ways to play around with it. Just whatever you feel connected to do, it is correct.
Cool. All righty. So thank you so much for sharing that. That is, I think, so meaningful. I was thinking because we are like, a couple of people here, and I'm like, okay, how is she going to pull a card which means something for all of us, right? Because all of us have different aspiration and different situation, and that like fits for all, and that's amazing. All right. So before I open up, like, is there anything else you want to add on your work or?
I guess the only thing I would say is if you're watching this and you feel something coming through you that wants to be expressed, go for it because it's not a coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. All right. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everybody on the call and give an opportunity to ask question, and let's have 10 minutes of interaction. Okay.
Cool. Hearing is that you've got some emotional blockages that you want to work on, and that you have already tried working on them on your own, but now you feel like you need additional support, right? And it sounds like what you're asking is a direction as to, oh, there is a saying, and you may have heard of it before, which is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So it sounds like you're ready, and it also sounds, which naturally means that um, the person that you're meant to work with is already in your life. and you already have a feeling as to who it is. Maybe you're not 100% sure, which is why you're asking that question. Whatever that feeling is, as small or large it might feel or sound, or even silly as it might seem like it doesn't make sense. And this is an opportunity for you to own your power and go, I choose that person to help me.
The teacher will appear when you are ready is so, so powerful, right? Because the place where I met June, I was not even supposed to be there. I was supposed to have gone to London for a writing workshop because I was working on, writing a novel, and for some reason it canceled. And then I'm like, oh no, I need to use that money to invest in myself, right? Like it's all about self love and care. And that's when I started investing. And I'm like, oh wow, this looks good, but it's not something I've done before. And that's where I met June too. And yeah, look at us.
Vinny, I 100% feel where you're coming from. I've been there. And I want to make an observation, a reflection to you. And that's what I do, as part of coaching as well, which is I reflect what I hear from you, right? And what I see as well. When you said that I know in my mind that there's something that I need to do, right? Your hands was actually pointing around your heart center. What that's telling me is that the reason why you're feeling unsure is because you're using the incorrect processing tool to find your answer. Your body is trying to tell you that the answer lies in your heart. But for some reason, you are using your mind to find the answer. Now, if you continue using your mind to find the answer, you will be exactly where you are, which is indecision, cannot find it. But what your body is telling me is that your heart has the answer and it's already there. So my invitation to you is to, instead of thinking, how about feeling? How about using your heart, asking your heart what the answer is, and I can almost guarantee you that's where you'll find the answer that you're seeking.
All right. Yeah. So I think sometimes we all try to be so logical that we forget about what our heart wants. And I think when you were talking to Vinny about that, I'm like, yeah, even I myself, sometimes when I think about things, you don't think from the heart. You always try to be logic. Oh, should I do this? Da, 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 da. What will, my mother think, or my family thinks, and that kind of logic, rational start. So that's a beautiful, beautiful answer.
My pleasure.
All right.
And Monica, if I can make a reflection for you as well, you just
Oh yeah.
you just said the word think like a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is that, there is a tendency to believe that when you want to find an answer, you have to think, right?
Yeah.
But remember, we are more than just, we have more than just the ability to think, right? There's thinking, there's feeling, there's being, there's doing, right? Sometimes, I don't know whether this has ever happened to you, but have you ever been in a situation where all you're doing is just showering, right? And all you're doing is taking a shower. You're not exactly thinking or being a certain way. All you are doing is taking a shower. But then suddenly an aha moment comes to you and you go like, oh my God, like I have the answer or I have an idea or something, right?
Yeah.
If you feel like yes, it's ever happened, then there's your answer. That sometimes the answers come when you're not thinking,
Yeah.
because the answer is just waiting to be discovered. It just needs to be felt, or it just needs to be given space and time to come to you. So it's not all just in our thoughts. There's more
Yeah.
ways to find your answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very good reflection, particularly for me, because I have been doing a lot of thinking. And now I'm on my way of intuition, following your heart, and like kind of moving towards that. So yeah, absolutely.
First, I'm sorry you're going through what you're going through because it's definitely not fun. And I can definitely tell you as well that your daughter's having as little fun as you're having. You're both in the same boat, if it's any consolation. Um, you actually already said the answer. You said that from my eyes, I don't think I am doing ABC, right? Your answer lies in the fact that you're seeing things through your eyes. What if you saw things from her eyes? I have one reflection for you, and this is not just to you, it's to all of us, right? Um, there is a habit, just like there's a habit of going, I think. There's another habit which we all unknowingly do is using the word should. What should I do? Now, the word should is very powerful, and with everything that has power, can be dangerous as well. Because when you ask someone or even yourself, what should I do? There is an element of giving away your power and go, tell me what I must do. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as should. There are things that you could do, but it doesn't mean that you should do. So if you know that it's that language that you use, maybe you might be using it not just on yourself, but on someone else, maybe your daughters as well. So, when someone tells you, you should drink more water, you should do this, you should exercise, you know, it doesn't feel very nice when someone tells you all the things that you should do. Whereas if you change the word to, you could drink more water and see how it feels. You could take a walk. It feels more invitational as opposed to, you should do this, because as human beings, we want to feel, we all have free will, right? So when people use the word should on us or when we use it on ourselves, it kind of takes away our power and that free will. Whereas if it's more invitational, it feels better, and the result might be quite different.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I felt the chill when June you said, the answer lies in what you said, looking from my eye, right? That's so beautiful. All right. So, for our listeners, what we did was we had a chat internally and had some reflection on personal growth, and I found it really helpful, and especially when we are doing it as a group. So for our listeners, if you want to be a part of the inner circle wherein we have the opportunity to talk to our guest speaker, join our Facebook group, Finding Yourself, and that's where you have the opportunity to, talk directly to the guest speaker, ask question. And so we had a wonderful session today. June, thank you so much. I think it was so helpful to have that experience, right, for each of us. Even though it was like only a couple of minutes, I think that really gave the glimpse of how your words can impact the other person.
Thank you, Monica. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I'm really grateful to everyone for your time today. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think it was meant to be. We were supposed to go live, and I was not really sure how I was going to plan the interaction. And if it was a live session, I don't think we would have this very intimate one on one session. And now that I think about it, I think all my future people of the world, I'm going to make it intimate this way so that we have the opportunity to, interact with the guest speaker like yourself. So, yeah, I think it was meant to be that your Be Life did not work.
Yep,
Yeah.
for
So to
sure.
to end the show, where can I know that I have seen that you are in Instagram, you are in, you have a Facebook page, you also have a website, and
Yes,
that's the best way for people to connect to you, for any.
100%.
All right.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to add before we end the show?
just want to say that I'm sorry that all of us are going through this interesting time right now that's COVID 19. But if there's one thing you take away from today, is that nothing is a coincidence and everything is happening for us, not to us. And when you look and try and find the reason why this is happening and what's there for you to learn, you will find something powerful that's just for you.
All right. So, with that message, we'll end this show. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to us. And I am sure that you are listening to this not as a coincidence. It was meant to be, and there is something in you, in what we are talking about, which will resonate to you. So, thank you so much for your time.